So, I watched K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix last year, and I thought it was actually pretty good. I'd rate it 9 out of 10, and it's not because I happen to be Korean myself, even if the movie does represent the country pretty well in my opinion, but it's also because the plot, the song numbers, and even the animation style caught my attention. Funny thing is, when I first heard that Sony Animation Studios was making a K-pop movie years before the first trailer ever came out, I honestly had my doubts, considering the rather lackluster movies they had in the past. Emoji movie. But considering they got their groove back in the form of Spider-Verse and Mitchell's vs. the Machines, I was starting to get my hopes up. But even then, I was rather blasé towards the idea of a K-pop movie, especially given the lack of details at the time, and how I myself didn't really have that much interest in K-pop in general. But it wasn't until the first trailer came out on YouTube, thanks to a friend of mine sending it to me, did I realize just how much potential the movie had. And spoiler alerts for those who didn't see it, which I highly suggest you do, since it's still on Netflix. For those of you who don't know, the movie is basically about a trio of Korean female singers who have been trying to guard humanity from the likes of demons, and their king, known as Guima, who seek to destroy all humans by stealing their souls and feeding off of them. The current generation of hunters go by the name Huntrix, and are made up of Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, with Rumi being unique because she's half demon, which understandably causes a lot of angst for her, due to her adoptive mother Celine warning her that demons cannot be trusted, considering how almost every single demon we see in the beginning and end of the movie is shown to be evil. Of course, when the demon singer Jinu and his crew known as the Saja Boys steal the fans of Huntrix so that they can weaken the Honmun, which is a special barrier that is supposed to protect humanity from the demon threat, the Huntrix girls are forced to step up their game, whereas Rumi and Jinu form a complicated but unique bond that borders on romantic, which a lot of fans called after seeing the trailer. However, things get worse when Jinu unfortunately betrays Rumi's trust by helping sabotage the Huntrix girls' performance for their song number Golden, which leads to Rumi's demon side not only being exposed to the public, but also temporarily causes her teammates to turn on her out of distrust, with not even Celine being able to provide any comfort or assistance, which sadly leaves their relationship on very thin ice. Fortunately, things get better when Rumi is able to overcome her issues, reconcile with Zoe and Mira, create a newer, if not better, Honmu to protect humanity, especially after Jinu sacrificed himself as a way of making up for his betrayal, and seemingly destroys Gima for good, and saves all of Korea, if not the entire world. To be honest, I found myself liking the plot considering it's a more unique take on the musical genre, while focusing mainly on demon slaying action that you don't get in a lot of media. That is if you don't count Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer, which is funny because Maggie Kang, who helped create the K-pop Demon Hunters movie, admitted to being inspired by anime in general, hence the more exaggerated facial features you'll see throughout the movie, such as the famous "yeah" scene. It also has a very colorful and vibrant atmosphere, even when things get darker in the second half of the movie, especially with Guima's dark purple, red, and pink color scheme dominating the backgrounds, up until Rumi, Mira, and Zoe generate enough colors and pure white shades in order to restore the scenery to its rightful order. I was also surprised by the amount of Korean references they put in the movie, whether it be the language that is spoken in a mostly English movie, the K-drama references, and even the modern Korean talk shows that get featured, especially in the ball pit slide scene. Even the food was something I recognized, such as ramyeon and those shrimp chips that Zoe eats, which, funnily enough, my parents also like eating them, though I don't recall them eating those chips like Zoe does. And yes, like Mira, I'd be pissed if someone interrupted me from eating my ramyeon too. To be honest, I kind of relate to all the Huntrix members, though Zoe is the one that I probably relate to the most, since like her, I am Korean, but also reside in North America. And as her line in the song Golden states, I too live two lives and tried to find my own place in the world. And as Dr. Han points out to Zoe regarding her people-pleasing nature, there were times when I tried to please people, even if it meant holding my tongue and doing what they say, while also apologizing a lot, despite there being cases where I didn't do anything wrong. Then again, it can be a side effect of how I used to get bullied as a kid, and the fact that I'm autistic too. When it comes to Mita, I too have had my personal falling out with my family regarding my interests, and while I'm not a rebel girl like she is, nor do I dye my hair like she does, there were times when me and my family didn't see eye to eye regarding my interests, such as writing or telling stories or even becoming a YouTuber at first. It also didn't help that they often criticized me, and while I know that it came from good intentions, it did sting at times and made me feel like I didn't really fit in with their standards, with my autism not helping. As for Rumi, while I may not be half demon like she is, I can relate to how she often felt the need to hide her own shame and secrets, along with wishing to be seen as perfect and successful to the point of anxiety and stress, which, as the movie shows, is not very healthy. I too have had those issues, considering how my autism makes me a bit more anxious and prone to panicking when things don't go the way I thought or hoped it would, and I often get frustrated or scared easily to the point of having mental breakdowns as a kid back in elementary and middle school. Yeah, it was not my greatest time. The scene where Rumi confronts Celine and asks why she doesn't love her, let alone look at her, even with her patterns, really stuck out to me because there were times where I genuinely felt the same way regarding my parents, and always had this lingering fear that my parents secretly hated me and were ashamed of me because I couldn't live up to their standards due to my autism, despite being the oldest in my family. I know now that the dark voice in my head, which can remind one of Krima, isn't to be trusted when it comes to my family supposedly hating me, but there are times when it still pops up. My main issues, however, were Celine, Jinu's easily forgiven status with Rumi, how we don't really get to see much characterization of the other Saja boys, and how, despite it being K-pop demon hunters, we don't get that much focus on Mira and Zoe, even if the movie is ultimately Rumi's story. No offense, but if I were in Rumi's shoes, I wouldn't be that forgiving towards Jinu, especially since he did betray her at the last minute, even if it was partially Kima's fault. If I were to improve that scene, I feel like maybe he could have rejected Kima's orders, because it's obvious that Rumi was successful in redeeming him, even if he was tempted or even tortured into serving Kima, considering how, in the early draft of the movie, Kima was going to be so much worse than Jinu. If anything else, perhaps Rumi could have had an "I know you're in there somewhere" fight with him to set him free, though whether he would have still died or not is anyone's guess. Also, I feel like we only get a glimpse of Celine's past and her connection to Rumi's late mother, plus the mysterious third Sunlight sister, since we only know that Celine was a prominent K-pop star in the 90s, which is when the Sunlight Sisters group was at its peak, until Rumi's mother presumably caused them to break up, with Rumi being taken in by Celine herself. But considering how in the early draft of K-pop Demon Hunters, we were supposed to see what Rumi's mother was like, and what her demon lover slash husband was like too, since he was apparently a good father, or at least tried to be one, until Celine apparently killed both of Rumi's parents, but who knows. Then again, given how the movie was basically one huge pilot for a media franchise, just waiting to happen if the amount of merchandising and McDonald's plus Shin Ramyun sponsorships are of any indication, perhaps we'll find out in the future. Funny thing is, I actually keep hearing the song Golden on both the radio in my family's car, as well as the stores I go to, though this is what it sounds like is my personal favorite, as well as how it's done. Overall, I liked the movie and thought it was both entertaining and relatable, especially since it showcases Korean culture and combines something as generic as K-pop with demon hunting. It even reinvigorated my story that I made a couple years back, which is also based on Korean culture, though it harkens more to Korean mythology and folklore a bit more than the movie does. Even so, I look forward to seeing what the franchise has to offer if it continues to grow.